Okay, let's talk about self. The self can be construed, framed, or conceptually represented in multiple ways. And in an individualistic society, we have independent. I wanted to find out what my good point is, what my goals are, and it's good. But for the collectivistic society is that you are independent. You depend on others too. So figuratively saying, the independent view of self. Okay, this is all you, everything you want to do. These are characteristic of you. And mother goes to work and she has her sets of training and that's her work. And there's daddy. And these are different siblings, and these are your friends. So you are kind of, you lead your own way, and everybody appreciate everybody else, and you will find, but I do not have to be in your life. You have a lot of friends. When you move away, do you get letters, phone calls? You're gone, you're gone.
So I'm only like that.
Yeah, but thank God for Facebook. We still have students who graduated, email us from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, from Asia, from Europe, right? Then we still be connected. But that is just modern, technological age. But for the older folks, they can't even get into it, and that is hard. But the independent view of self, in other words, I am not only independently develop myself, do what I like to do, develop it, good, everybody's happy, I'm proud of you, you are successful. But in terms of emotional support, in terms of helping each other in times of, happiness or sadness, how do we do it? The other day I was just thinking, the only time we got together is go to a funeral. We shouldn't be doing just that. We have so much we could. But as your world grows, and it is hard to keep tab of everybody, and it is good to have people who like you and that. So we cannot be 4,500 friends. We have a few friends. But the view is that, okay, I also depend on you to help me in certain ways. Of course, the positive is you don't feel lonely. Positively, you get support. But negatively, it also drains you too. So therefore, when you have clients come from this perspective, you have to say, well, what will make your life meaningful and happy? How could do you feel this is a little too much? Could you cut a little less? What would you be comfortable with? And it's good for everyone. Okay, consequences of different self-control and task. Okay, you read that? Independent is unique. You could express yourself, realize internal attributes, promote your own goals, be direct, say what's on your mind. Okay? The interdependent, the contrast is you belong, you fit in, you have a place in the group, and you also engage in action. Engagement is important, isn't it? And how many times do we see clients who are isolated, lonely, depressed? And so if you have a group that you depend on, and you could also promote each other's goals, almost like you say, yeah, what do you need? They understand. It's rich, isn't it? But there are also downsides, and we say, okay. Now we talk about the difference in cognition. Does it make sense? The thinking style. Black or white? Logical or not logical? Is the thought clear, not clear? Concrete. But the Chinese yin-yang thinking is that, yeah, this is what we were talking about. One, negative, there's also, the positive. And there are different shades of gray. That's getting very popular book, right? And our thinking, our brain is very complex. It's not just linear, black or white. And we need to understand how the brain works. And how do we handle contradictions, ambiguity? Isn't that the thing that we always face with clients? Very ambiguous. It could be this and it could be that, and I don't really know what. That was very difficult. And of course you have some very philosophical individuals. And if you're not philosophical, and that's to say, where does she come from this, right? So when we talk about cultural differences, we talk about individual differences as well. And your own culture is different from another culture. Is that a possible job to be relating to another person? That is not easy. I'm not going to talk about John Barry's. I studied his course, and he's talking about, how many ways you can acculturate. In other words, you could be completely integrated. Give me an example of completely integrated into a majority culture. Let's talk about, if you are from another culture and you go into a majority culture, you have choices. Some would completely immerse in the majority culture. Forget about the culture they were brought in. They don't speak the language. They don't want to remember what they learned in their own culture. They want to immerse into this majority culture. The upside is you survive and you get jobs and you feel part of the majority culture. But on the other hand, you have forgotten the good things from your own culture, right? You abandon the things that you were brought up that are good. So our majority culture, if you don't share, will be deprived of the good things that you can bring from your culture. So this is why so often when I'm working with cross-cultural clients, and I said, you know what? You have good things from your culture that we wanted to instill in our culture. And all of the majority culture characteristics are not all good. You should bring the good culture into this majority culture and don't pick up the bad things from this culture. Then your life, your world will be different, and you will influence the majority culture for the better. They say, oh, they think that once you get into another culture, and you should forget about your own culture. For example, hardworking, respect parents, caring for the older folks, and not just wanted to get higher up in your profession. So, living a good life is a balancing act, isn't it? But we're not just balancing one thing, we're balancing so many things. And it is not easy to. Okay, some of them, when John Barry talked about, is separation and segregation. Some people, I know in some areas even now, they say, we don't need to learn English. in B.Sc and Toronto too. Well, we have, grocery stores, we have laundry stores, we have, teachers, and we have churches. We don't need any English, you see. And, well, we feel good about ourselves. Let's do that. So if they do not take a little bit from the majority culture, they stay in their own culture, they become separated, isolated. And that's not always a good thing. But sometimes assimilation. I take a little bit of the major culture, I retain my culture. Or somebody said, I do not like to live here because they don't respect who I am, where I'm coming from, and I don't like this culture. Everything is so, yuck, and I don't like it. What happens if the person takes that stand? You are marginalized. We have seen that. So in other words, when different culture comes into a majority culture, a person has, or a family has a choice. We're not talking about individuals. We talk about the family. There were families that come in and say, well, okay, we'll buy a house near the area that we feel comfortable with. We talked about pockets of different culture. Yeah, I think it is okay overall. You look at Canada, we are a melting pot, like we used to say about the US. We are what? A mosaic. What does that mean? A mosaic means that pieces put together. And I think it's all right, isn't it? Because different cultures bring in different things, and we respect, we have different food, different languages. Our culture would be richer. Is it being too optimistic? Okay, then how do we cope with the differences? Oops, what did I do? Technology. Okay, I'm going to do just 2 more slides and we will take a break. Then we'll talk about self-disclosure. Is that okay?